Farina tightened her seatbelt with trembling hands as the baby on her lap whimpered softly. 8 months. Theo was only 8 months old and was already being dragged away from everything he knew. Away from the apartment she had shared with Daniel. Away from the broken promises and the tears she no longer wanted to shed. The seat beside her was empty. She prayed silently that it would remain so throughout the flight from Miami to New York City. She had no energy for polite conversation, for questions about why such a young woman was traveling alone with a baby, for the looks of pity that would invariably come. But fate or chance had other plans. A tall man wearing a discreet but visibly expensive suit stopped beside her. Marina noticed the shoes first. Genuine leather, impeccable. Then the watch. Simple, but she recognized the brand because Daniel always commented that he dreamed of owning one someday. This man didn't dream. He simply had. Raphael. She heard the flight attendant greet him by name when he handed over his jacket. Mr. Thompson. The woman's voice had that special tone, that reverence people use when they recognize someone important. Marina shrunk, a little further against the window, adjusting Theo in her arms. The baby was restless, sensing his mother's anxiety as he always did. She whispered soft words, rocking him gently. Raphael settled into his seat, and Marina waited for the inevitable. The look of annoyance, the silent request for her to make the baby stop making noise, the sigh of resignation from someone trapped next to a small child for 2 hours. But none of that came. Instead, when Theo turned his curious little head to the side, Raphael smiled. It was a genuine smile that reached his tired eyes. He wiggled his fingers slightly, and the baby, always sociable, let out a giggle. Marina blinked, surprised. The plane began to taxi. Theo stirred more, uncomfortable with the engine noise. Marina cradled him, humming softly a song her grandmother used to sing. But the baby continued to grumble, that low cry that preceded a bigger fuss. It was then that Raphael did something unexpected. He extended his index finger, leaving it in Theo's field of vision. The baby immediately grasped the finger with his chubby little hand, concentrating on the new discovery. The crying stopped. Marina stared at him astonished. He shrugged, an almost shy gesture. "My nephew is the same age," he murmured, as if needing to justify the gesture. The flight took off smoothly. Marina let out a sigh of relief when Theo finally relaxed, his little eyes growing heavy. In a few minutes, the baby was sleeping soundly in her arms. She leaned her head against the seat back, allowing herself a moment of exhaustion. She had packed her entire life into 3 suitcases in the last 48 hours. She had cried hidden in the bathroom while the neighbor looked after Theo. She had called her mother's second cousin, Vivian, begging for a temporary place to stay. She had handed in her resignation letter at the school where she had taught for 5 years, all because she couldn't bear to live in the same city as Daniel anymore. Not after discovering that his marriage to her had been merely a formality, that he had never truly left his college girlfriend, that Theo, their son, was seen as a mistake, a burden. Tears threatened to return, but Marina swallowed them. Not here. Not now. The flight was surprisingly calm for the first half hour. Raphael opened a laptop, but Marina noticed he barely looked at the screen. He seemed more absorbed in distant thoughts. Then the interruptions began. First, it was a different flight attendant, young and with a practiced smile. "Mr. Thompson, it's an honor to have you on board. Is there anything we can offer you? Champagne, a special meal." Raphael thanked her politely, declining everything. The flight attendant insisted a little longer before retreating, but not without casting a curious glance at Marina and the baby. 5 minutes later, it was a passenger. Elegant, around 40, her hair perfectly styled even after an hour of flight. She leaned over the aisle, a wide smile. "Raphael Thompson, isn't it? What a wonderful coincidence. I'm Patricia Miller from Miller Holdings. I'm sure you've heard of us. We're expanding into agribusiness, and we'd love to schedule a meeting." Marina saw Raphael's jaw clench slightly. He was polite but firm. "I'm not conducting business during the flight, madam. Please ask my assistant to contact me." Patricia didn't give up easily. She continued talking for a few more minutes, until Raphael simply closed his eyes and leaned his head back, clearly ending the conversation. The woman finally retreated. but not without, leaving a business card on his tray table. Marina kept her eyes firmly fixed on the window, pretending not to have witnessed anything, but she had understood. This man was not just rich, he was someone. Someone people recognized, wanted to impress, saw as an opportunity. 10 more minutes passed. Raphael sighed, softly but audibly. Marina heard him murmur something that sounded like, "So tired of this." It was then that he turned to her. For the first time, their eyes met directly. They were dark brown eyes, intelligent but with a shadow of weariness that went beyond lack of sleep. "Sorry to bother you," he said, his voice low so as not to wake Theo. "But I need a favor." Marina blinked, confused. "Me?" He gave a crooked, almost embarrassed smile. "I know it will sound strange, but—" He hesitated, running a hand through his dark hair. "Would you mind pretending to be asleep on my shoulder?" Marina must have made a face of absolute shock because he quickly raised his hands in a placating gesture. "I'll explain. It's just that when I appear to be accompanied, people stop approaching me. I know it's a bizarre request, but I'm truly exhausted and just want a few hours of peace. I promise I won't do anything inappropriate. It's just a barrier." Marina studied him. There was something genuine in the request, and strangely, she understood. She herself was fleeing from being seen, from being approached, from having to explain her life to strangers. "How long?" she asked, surprising herself with her own response. "The rest of the flight." He seemed relieved. "Look, I know it's strange. I can pay you." "No," she interrupted, a little harsher than she intended. "You don't need to pay. I understand wanting peace." He smiled, and this time the smile was one of genuine gratitude. "Thank you, seriously." Marina adjusted Theo in her arms, making sure the baby was comfortable and safe. Then, slowly, she leaned over and rested her head on Raphael's shoulder. It was strange, intimate in a surreal way, especially with a complete stranger. But his shoulder was firm, and there was a subtle scent of expensive but not overpowering cologne. She closed her eyes, intending only to pretend. But the truth was, Marina hadn't slept properly in weeks. The sleepless nights with Theo, the stress of the separation, the worries about the uncertain future awaiting her in New York City. Everything weighed on her like an impossible mountain to climb. Raphael's shoulder was warm. The plane's constant hum was hypnotic, and for the first time in a long time, Marina allowed herself to let down her guard. She didn't notice when her breathing deepened. She didn't notice when her body completely relaxed. She didn't notice when she stopped pretending and simply slept. Raphael noticed. He felt the exact moment her weight against him shifted from intentional to abandoned. Her breathing became regular, deep. One of her hands, which was holding Theo, relaxed a little, and Raphael instinctively adjusted his arm to ensure the baby wouldn't slip. He looked at the young woman asleep on his shoulder. There was something deeply vulnerable about her. Dark circles under her eyes. Simple clothes, but clean and well kept. Her brown hair tied in a practical bun that was already half undone. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't trying to impress him. She had simply trusted. Or she was so exhausted she had no choice. Raphael Thompson didn't consider himself a particularly empathetic man. 15 years of running the Thompson family agribusiness empire had hardened his heart. He had learned early to distrust gestures of vulnerability, especially from women. How many had feigned fragility, genuine interest, emotional connection, only to later reveal they wanted access to his money, his surname, his connections. But there was something different here. Perhaps it was the baby. Perhaps it was the way she had looked at him when he asked for the favor, as if his request was just another strangeness in an already strange day. No calculation, no games, or perhaps it was just the fact that she clearly had no idea who he was. A flight attendant passed by, noticed the scene, and smiled with understanding before quietly moving away. No one else approached. The barrier had worked, but now Raphael found he didn't care so much about the interruptions. He was too busy trying to understand why a complete stranger sleeping on his shoulder felt like the most real thing that had happened to him in years. The plane shook violently. Marina woke with a start, disoriented. It took her a few seconds to realize where she was. The cabin lights flickered, and the pilot's calm voice announced they were crossing a turbulent zone and everyone should remain seated with their seatbelts fastened. Then she realized her face was pressed against something warm and solid. A shoulder. Raphael's shoulder. Marina pulled away so fast she almost dropped Theo, who miraculously was still asleep. Her face burned with shame. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just going to pretend, but... It's all right, Raphael said, and there was a touch of humor in his voice. You clearly needed real sleep. Marina covered her face with a hand, mortified. This is so embarrassing, I literally fell asleep on a stranger's shoulder. Technically, you were doing me a favor. A favor I didn't fulfill properly. Marina tried to fix her hair, aware that she must look a mess. How many people came to bother you while I was asleep? None, he replied, and his tone was sincere. The barrier worked perfectly, even if it wasn't exactly as planned. Marina finally managed to look at him. Raphael was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. It wasn't judgment. It wasn't the predatory interest she had learned to recognize. It was something closer to curiosity, perhaps even respect. How long did I sleep? She asked. About 40 minutes, he pointed to the panel. We'll be arriving in New York City soon. Marina looked out the window. The city lights were already beginning to appear below, a golden sea stretching to the horizon. New York City, her new life, her frightening fresh start. Are you okay? Raphael asked, following her gaze. Marina forced a smile. Of course. Why wouldn't I be? Because you're clutching the armrest hard enough to make your knuckles white. She immediately released it, surprised with herself. It's just moving to a new city, new start, you know. Work? He asked casually. Yes, new school, new life. Marina looked at Theo, who was beginning to stir. It's what's best for us. Raphael nodded, as if he understood all the things she wasn't saying. I travel a lot for work, constantly between cities. It never gets easier, that feeling of being between places. What do you do? Marina asked, realizing it was the first time they were having a real conversation, despite the forced intimacy of the last few minutes. Agribusiness, he replied. Mainly soy and corn. Some cattle properties too. It's complex. Marina smiled genuinely this time. My grandfather had a small farm, fruits mainly. Guava, acerola, mango. I used to spend holidays there as a child. He always said the land was generous if you respected it. Your grandfather was wise, Raphael said, and there was something nostalgic in his tone. That's exactly it. People think agribusiness is just about profit and numbers, but he hesitated. Deep down, it's about respecting cycles, understanding that you don't control everything. You just work with what nature allows. It was Marina's turn to study him with curiosity. You seem to like what you do. Like is a complicated word, Raphael admitted. It's what I do. It's what I've always done. It's what my family has done for generations. But it's not what you would choose to do. The question escaped before Marina could think better of it. She expected him to be offended, but Raphael just laughed. A low sound, almost surprised. You're very direct. Sorry, it's a teacher's fault. We spend all day asking questions. Don't apologize, he said, shaking his head. It's refreshing. Before they could continue, Theo woke up completely. And when he woke up, it was with a piercing cry that made half the plane turn around. Marina immediately began to rock him, whispering, trying everything. But Theo was inconsolable. Clean diaper. Didn't want to nurse, didn't want the pacifier. He simply cried with that intensity only babies can manage. May I? Raphael asked, extending his hands. Marina hesitated only a second before passing the baby to him. What did she have to lose? Raphael held Theo with a confidence that surprised Marina. He rested the baby against his chest in an upright position and began to pat his back in light, rhythmic taps. Then he started to hum. It wasn't a recognizable song, just a low, constant sound. Theo stopped, crying almost immediately. his still tear-filled eyes fixed on Raphael's face with fascination. Then, to Marina's absolute shock, the baby smiled. That toothless, drooling smile she loved more than anything in the world. Theo reached out his tiny hand and grabbed Raphael's index finger, holding on tight. "Are you magic or something?" Marina asked, incredulous. Raphael laughed, clearly pleased with himself. "I just have practice and luck." Theo began to babble, those nonsensical sounds babies make when they're happy, all the trauma of waking up already forgotten. He looked at Raphael as if he had discovered the most interesting person in the universe. Marina watched the scene with a mixture of relief and something more, something that scared her a little. It was so rare to see someone interact with Theo like this, without discomfort, without haste to hand him back. Daniel never had. She cut off the thought. She wasn't going to think about him. Not now. "He likes you," she said aloud. "The feeling is mutual," Raphael replied, making a funny face that made Theo giggle. The plane began its final descent. Raphael carefully returned Theo to Marina, but the baby kept looking at him, clearly reluctant to lose his new friend. "Do you live in New York City?" Marina asked as they prepared for landing. "I spend more time here than anywhere else," Raphael said. "Offices on Wall Street, but the properties are spread across the countryside. Texas, Kansas, Iowa. It's a life on the road." "That must be tiring." "It is," he agreed, and for the first time since he had sat down, Marina saw the real exhaustion on his face. But it's what has to be done. The plane touched down smoothly. Marina felt her stomach churn. She was really here, really starting over without a safety net, without a plan B. As they waited for clearance to disembark, Raphael turned to her. "May I ask a question that will sound strange? Stranger than asking me to pretend to sleep on your shoulder?" He smiled. "Fair point. It's just, you really don't know who I am, do you?" Marina blinked, confused. "Should I?" "No, you shouldn't," Raphael said quickly. "It's just that most people," he gestured vaguely, "recognize the name, or the face, from magazines, business news. It's refreshing," Marina completed, remembering the word he had used. "Exactly," he agreed, and there was a genuine smile on his face. "Very refreshing." The line began to move. Marina struggled to gather her things, balance Theo, pull out the diaper bag from under the seat. Raphael immediately helped, grabbing the bag and her small backpack. "I'll carry them," he said, ignoring her protests. They walked down together, Raphael carrying her luggage with the same ease he carried his own leather briefcase. In the arrival corridor, Marina looked ahead anxiously, searching for Vivian. Her cousin had promised to be there with a sign, but there was no one. Marina checked her phone. 2 missed messages. "Vivian, so sorry. Something came up at work, but write down the address. You can get there by bus. It's very close to the station." The second was the address. Marina closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. It was fine. She could do this. Bus, subway, with an 8-month-old baby and 3 suitcases, in a city she didn't know, at 9 at night. It was fine. "Your cousin?" Raphael asked, noticing the change in her expression. "Something came up," Marina said, forcing lightness into her voice. "But it's fine. She sent me the address. I'll take public transport." Raphael frowned. "With 3 suitcases and a baby?" "It's not the first time," Marina lied. "It was. I'll manage." They reached the baggage claim. Marina located her 3 battered suitcases. Raphael pulled them off before she could protest. "At least let me help you get a taxi," he said. "You don't have to." Marina took the diaper bag from him, adjusted Theo on her hip. "Seriously, you've already helped too much. You must have people waiting, appointments." "I do," Raphael admitted. "A meeting in an hour, but—" "Then go," Marina interrupted him, smiling to soften the rejection. "Thank you. For everything. For the shoulder," she laughed, embarrassed, "and for being kind to Theo." Raphael hesitated. She saw the conflict on his face, but then he nodded. "Take care, both of you." "We'll be fine," Marina said with more confidence than she felt. She watched him walk away, quickly swallowed by the airport crowd. Then she turned, looked at her suitcases, at Theo, at the huge unknown concourse, and began to make a plan. First, she needed to find out where the bus stop was, then understand which line to take. Then, Theo started crying again, tired and confused by all. The movement. Marina felt tears threaten. No, she wasn't going to cry, she wasn't going to fall apart, she was going to... Marina. She turned around. Raphael was back, slightly out of breath as if he had run. "My driver is coming to pick you up," he said without preamble. "What? No, I can't." "You can and you will," Raphael said, firm but not harsh. "Look, I know you don't know me. I know it must seem strange, but my driver is extremely trustworthy. He's been with me for 15 years and I just..." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. "I can't leave you here, not like this, not with Theo." Marina opened her mouth to protest, but then she looked at the crying baby, at the suitcases, at the intimidating concourse, and allowed herself to accept help. "All right," she whispered. "Thank you." The driver was a man around 60, with grey hair and a kind face. He introduced himself as Mr. Davies and treated Marina with a respectful courtesy that made her feel more comfortable. But it was the car that left her speechless. It wasn't just luxurious, though it clearly was. It was the back seat. It had a baby car seat. Installed. Ready. Marina looked at Raphael, confused. "How did you..." "I had it installed in the last few weeks," Raphael explained, and there was something almost defensive in his tone. "I have a project, daycares on rural properties, for the workers' children. Mr. Davies takes me to do inspections. I thought it would be more practical to always have the car seats available." Mr. Davies, putting the suitcases in the trunk, added proudly, "The boss is equipping 20 farms with complete daycares, nursing room, nursery, everything. It has made a difference in many people's lives." Marina looked at Raphael, seeing him in a completely different light. He avoided her gaze, suddenly interested in his phone. It makes sense," he murmured. "Working mothers need support. It increases productivity and..." He stopped, clearly uncomfortable with the implicit praise. "Anyway, have a good trip. Mr. Davies will drop you off wherever you need." Before Marina could respond, Raphael was already walking away again, this time faster, already answering a call that made him frown. Marina settled Theo into the car seat carefully. The baby, exhausted from all the day's emotions, fell asleep almost. Instantly, Mr. Davies began to drive with impressive smoothness, avoiding bumps. "Miss, the address you gave me is in Queens. It will take about 40 minutes with this hour's traffic," he explained gently. "All right," Marina responded, looking out the window at the illuminated city. She was still processing everything. The flight, Raphael, this unexpected kindness. Her phone vibrated. "Raphael, did you arrive safely?" Marina looked at the message, surprised. She hadn't even given him her number. Then she realized Mr. Davies must have given it to him. "Marina, still on the way. Thank you again. For everything." "Raphael, you're welcome. Sorry if I was intrusive. Just wanted to make sure you were safe." "Marina, you weren't intrusive. You were kind. By the way, your daycare project. It's amazing." There was a longer pause. "Raphael, it's the least I can do. How's Theo?" Marina, sleeping like an angel. "I think you tired him out." Raphael, "I have that effect on people." Marina smiled, typing a response. But then she hesitated. This was... what exactly? A rich man she had just met was texting her, asking about her son, sending his private driver. It was strange, but it was also the only kind thing that had happened to her in months. "Marina, aren't you late for your meeting?" Raphael, "I am. My partner is already lecturing me." Marina, "Then stop texting me and pay attention." Raphael, "Yes, Professor." Marina laughed to herself in the back seat, earning a curious glance from Mr. Davies in the rearview mirror. Across the city, Raphael was sitting in a luxurious conference room on the 40th floor of a building on Wall Street. Roderick, his partner and best friend since college, stared at him with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. "Are you paying attention?" Roderick asked. Through the intercom, Raphael put his phone away, guilty. "Sorry, I was just checking something." "Something or someone," Roderick teased, but his tone was curious, not judgmental. Raphael didn't answer, but felt his face flush. Ridiculous. He was 35, not a teenager, but he couldn't stop thinking about the young teacher and her son, the way she had slept on his shoulder with unconscious trust, the way she had no idea who he was, the way she had looked at him when she learned about the daycares as if he were good, not useful, not convenient, just good. "Raphael," Roderick called, more serious now. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Raphael said, but he knew he wasn't convincing anyone. "Just met someone on the flight." "And?" "And nothing. Just helped with transportation. She's a single mother, new to the city, seemed to need help." Roderick studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled. "You like her?" "I don't know her," Raphael retorted. "But you want to." Raphael didn't deny it, because it was true. The following days were a blur of frustrations for Marina. Vivian was kind, but clearly hadn't expected to host a baby. Her one-bedroom apartment was small, and Marina slept on the sofa with Theo in his stroller beside her. Her cousin worked 2 jobs, left early and came home late, and though she never complained, Marina saw the tiredness in her eyes. She needed her own place, fast. But New York City was expensive, absurdly expensive. The apartments she visited within her tight budget were deplorable. Mold on the walls, exposed wiring. One of them had a bathroom shared with 3 other apartments on the same floor. Marina returned to Vivian's sofa every night more disheartened. Theo sensed the tension and became fussy. She barely slept. So, the 4th day her phone rang. Raphael. "Hi," he said, and she could hear office noise in the background. "How's the apartment hunt going?" Marina considered lying, saying everything was fine, but she was too tired to pretend. "Difficult. Everything I can afford is inadequate. For Theo, especially." There was silence. Then, "Can I help?" "Raphael, you've already helped too much. I have contacts in the real estate market, people who... Look, it's not charity. They're decent landlords who prefer reliable tenants to profiting from bad apartments. Let me at least open some doors." Marina bit her lip. Pride said, "No?" But when she looked at Theo crawling on the cramped floor of Vivian's apartment, she thought of dampness, of safety, of space for her son to grow. "All right," she said softly. "Thank you." In 2 hours, a realtor named Lucy Fields called. "Marina?" "Lucy Fields from Fields Realty. Mr. Thompson gave me your contact. I have 3 apartments I think you'll be interested in, all within your budget. Can we see them today?" Marina almost dropped the phone. Budget? How did she know the budget? But she agreed, still stunned. The apartments were perfect. Not luxurious, but clean, safe, well located. The 3rd in Brooklyn had 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, and was just 2 blocks from the school where Marina would start working. The rent was exactly at the top of what she could afford, suspiciously exact. That night, Marina texted Raphael. "Marina, I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest with me." Raphael. "Of course." Marina. "The apartments, the prices, are they real?" There was a long pause. Raphael. "They are real." Marina. Raphael. "I'm being honest. The prices are what the landlords normally charge. I didn't subsidize anything. I didn't give money to anyone. I just opened doors. I spoke to people who trust my word. I said you were reliable, a good person, a teacher. Some landlords prefer that to renting to anyone who offers more money." Marina. "But you influenced the process." Raphael. "Yes, but not the price." Marina. "If this makes you uncomfortable, I understand. But please believe it wasn't charity. It was just networking, which anyone with contacts would do. Marina looked at the message for a long time. Then she looked at Theo, finally sleeping peacefully after several restless days. Marina, I'm signing the contract tomorrow. But I'll owe you one. Raphael, you don't owe me anything, but if you insist, I'll accept a coffee once you're settled. Marina, how about dinner? You choose the place. This time with a set time, not a weird request on a plane. Raphael, I thought you liked the weird request. Marina, it was different, but I prefer real dinners. Raphael, so it's a date? Marina paused, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Was it? A date? Marina, it's a thank you. Between friends? The answer came quickly. Raphael, between friends. For now. Marina smiled, feeling something warm in her chest. Something she thought had died when Daniel destroyed her trust. Something like hope. 2 days later, Marina signed the contract. Lucy, the realtor, hugged her with genuine enthusiasm. Welcome to the neighborhood. You'll like it here. It's great for families. That night, Marina sent a photo to Raphael. It was her and Theo, sitting on the empty floor of the new apartment, surrounded by boxes. Both were smiling. Marina, officially settled. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. Raphael, the house is yours. You earned this. Marina, with a little help from a certain stubborn businessman. Raphael, about dinner. How about Friday? I know a good kid-friendly place in Brooklyn close to you. Marina, Friday sounds great. Raphael, and Marina. Marina, yes? Raphael, I'm happy that you're doing well, both of you. Marina looked at the message, feeling that warmth again. Different from the impulsive passion she had felt for Daniel, this was softer, more real, more frightening. Marina, I'm happy too, and excited for Friday. She sent it before she could regret it. Then she hugged Theo and looked around the empty apartment. Her apartment, her fresh start, and for the first time since she had left Miami, Marina believed that maybe, just maybe, everything would work out. Friday arrived faster than Marina expected. She spent the day alternating between excitement and panic. What to wear? How to do her hair? Was it a date or wasn't it? Raphael had said between friends, but that for now had kept echoing in her mind. At 7 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. Marina opened the door and found Raphael, but not the impeccable suit version from the plane. He wore dark jeans and a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Simple, but somehow it made him seem more approachable, more real. "Hi," he said, and Marina noticed he seemed slightly nervous too. That made her calmer. "Hi, come in. I'll just get Theo." Raphael entered the apartment, looking around. Marina had managed to set up the basics: a second-hand sofa that Vivian had helped her find, a coffee table, Theo's crib in the bedroom. It wasn't much, but it was hers. "You've made it cozy," Raphael commented, and it sounded genuine, not condescending. "Thank you. Still a long way to go, but—" Marina shrugged. "It's a start." Then she noticed the package in his hands. "What's that?" Raphael seemed to become even more uncomfortable. "It's a gift. For Theo. But it's not expensive at all," he hastened to say. "In fact, it's old." He held out the package. Marina opened it carefully. Inside was a teddy bear. Clearly old, its fur a little faded, but impeccably clean and well cared for. It had button eyes and a red ribbon around its neck. "It belonged to my sister," Raphael explained, his voice softer. "Laura. She doesn't live in the US anymore. She went to study abroad and ended up staying. Got married, has 2 children, but before she left, she gave this to me. Said that when I had a child, I should pass it on. I never—" He stopped, swallowing hard. "I don't have children. Probably never will. My life is complicated. But I saw Theo and I thought he should have it." Marina felt her eyes sting. She held the teddy bear carefully, as if it were made of something precious. "Raphael, this is— your sister gave you this. It's important. That's why I want Theo to have it. It will be more loved here than in a box in my apartment. Marina didn't trust her voice, so she just nodded. Theo, in his stroller, saw the teddy bear and immediately reached out his arms, wanting to grab it. Raphael laughed and handed the toy to the baby, who hugged it tightly. I think he approved, Marina said, finally managing to smile through her tears. The restaurant was perfect. It wasn't ostentatious or expensive. It was a small bistro on a tree-lined street in Brooklyn. It had high chairs for children, a menu with simple but delicious options, and the owner greeted Raphael by name, but without the exaggerated reverence Marina had seen on the plane. Do you come here often? She asked as they settled in. No, Raphael admitted, but I researched kid-friendly places in the neighborhood. I saw the reviews. Many people praised the family atmosphere. You researched? Marina repeated, surprised and touched. I wanted you both to be comfortable. Dinner flowed naturally. They ordered homemade pasta and salads. Theo was surprisingly well-behaved, nibbling on pieces of bread and making funny faces for both of them. Then Marina asked something that had been on her mind since the airport. Why did you take over the company so young? Raphael was quiet for a moment, swirling his wine. I was 20, my father was sick. Not seriously, but enough for doctors to recommend he slow down. And I was the oldest, the heir. He paused. I dropped out of college. Architecture. You wanted to be an architect? I wanted to design things, spaces that made people feel, I don't know, at home. He smiled, but it was a sad smile. I ended up designing silos and warehouses, not exactly what I dreamed of. Marina reached across the table, lightly touching his fingers. I'm so sorry. Don't be, Raphael said, but he didn't pull his hand away. It was my choice, and the company grew. It employs thousands of people. It makes a difference. It's just, sometimes I wonder who I would be if I had chosen differently. You can still choose, Marina said softly. I'm 35, 15 years committed to this. It's not that simple. Nothing is simple, Marina agreed. Look at me, 27, fresh out of a marriage that should never have happened, with a beautiful son who will grow up without his father, starting from scratch in a city I don't know. Why did you leave? Raphael asked. Sorry if that's intrusive, but you don't have to answer. Marina took a deep breath. I found out my husband had never broken up with his college girlfriend. They continued throughout our entire relationship. She stopped, the pain still present. When I confronted him, he said our marriage was practical, that I would be a good mother, a good wife, but that I wasn't the love of his life. Raphael squeezed her hand tighter. He's an idiot. Yes, Marina agreed, and this time she managed to smile. But at least I found out before wasting more years, and I have Theo, which is the best thing that ever happened to me. She looked at her son, who had fallen asleep in his high chair, hugging the teddy bear. He didn't ask to be born into this mess, but I'm going to do everything to make sure he has a good life, full of real love. Raphael watched her with an intensity that made her blush. You're incredible, you know that? I'm just a mum trying to do her best. No, it's more than that. You're brave, real. You're not afraid to start over, to take risks. I'm terrified, Marina admitted. Every day. But fear can't stop me, not when I have him depending on me. They were silent for a moment, just looking at each other. Something was forming there, something that scared Marina with its intensity and speed, but at the same time, it felt right, as if that meeting on the plane hadn't been a coincidence. Can I confess something? Raphael said finally. Of course. You were the first person in years who saw me. Not the Thompson name, not the money, not the connections. Just me. He paused, searching for the right words. When you slept on my shoulder on that plane, it was so genuine. You weren't trying to impress me. You weren't feigning vulnerability to manipulate me. You just trusted. And I didn't know I was so hungry for that until I felt it. Marina felt her eyes sting again. Raphael, I'm not asking for anything, he hastened to say. I know you're recovering. I know you have a child to care for. I know you barely know me. I just wanted you to know why I'm doing this, why I can't stop thinking about you and Theo. Marina squeezed his hand. I can't stop thinking about you either. And that scares me, because I shouldn't be ready for this. I'm still bleeding from the last disaster. Then don't rush, Raphael said, bringing her hand to his lips and kissing it lightly. Let's go slowly, however it needs to be. They finished dinner in a lighter mood, talking about everyday things, favorite books, movies that made them cry, childhood foods. Raphael talked about growing up on the farms, running barefoot among the coffee plants. Marina talked about holidays at her grandfather's farm, picking fruits directly from the tree. When they left, Theo was still sleeping soundly. Raphael carefully picked up the car seat, carrying the baby with a naturalness that melted Marina's heart. He drove them back to her apartment, parked and insisted on taking Theo to the door. Marina opened it, and Raphael carefully placed the car seat on the living room floor. Why are you doing all this? Marina asked at the door, the question escaping before she could censor it. Why so much? For us? Raphael stood still, studying her face. Then he said, with an honesty that disarmed her, because you and Theo are the first people in years who have approached me without ulterior motives. Because your sleep on the plane was the most real thing that has happened to me in a long time. Because when I look at you, I don't see someone trying to use me. I see someone who... He paused, vulnerable. Makes me want to be more than the Thompson heir. Makes me want to be just Raphael. Marina felt something break inside her, the walls she had built, the fears she carried. Everything began to crack. I want to reciprocate, she said. In some way. I can't offer you money or connections, but I can teach you regional cooking. Those recipes from my grandfather's farm. Or Bob, you mentioned education projects. I'm a teacher. I can help develop curricula, train teams. I just want it to be equal, not you always giving and me always receiving. Raphael smiled, that smile that lit up his entire face. Deal. Cooking lessons in exchange for whatever you want. My help. My time. He hesitated. My friendship. To start. To start, Marina repeated, and the implicit promise hung in the air between them. Raphael leaned in, hesitated, then gently kissed her forehead. Good night, Marina. Good night, Raphael. She watched him leave, then closed the door and leaned against it, her heart beating fast. Theo was still asleep, hugging the teddy bear that had belonged to Raphael's sister. Such a personal, such a meaningful gift. Marina picked up her phone and sent a message. Marina, thank you for dinner, for the teddy bear, for everything. The reply came immediately. Raphael, thank you for giving me a reason to truly smile. Marina hugged her phone to her chest, feeling something bloom in her heart. It was scary. It was fast, it was completely unexpected, but it was real. Finally, after so much pretense, something was genuinely real. Marina was preparing breakfast when the doorbell rang on Saturday morning. She wasn't expecting visitors. Vivian had said she would be working all day. So who could it be? She opened the door and found Raphael, but this time he was different. He wore a simple t-shirt, faded jeans and sneakers, and behind him in the hallway was a car. Not the luxurious SUV she would expect. It was a modest silver sedan, a few years old. Good morning, he said, smiling in an almost shy way. I hope I'm not intruding, but I brought something. He gestured to the car. Marina saw something large covered by a blanket in the back seat. What is it? She asked, curious. A crib. Raphael ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Marina was beginning to recognize as a sign of nervousness. It was the first gift I gave my sister when she was born. I was 4. My mother still keeps it, even though Laura left home 15 years ago. I borrowed it. I thought Theo could use it. Marina was paralyzed. Raphael, that crib has immense sentimental value for your family. Exactly why I want it to be used, he said, firm but gentle. My mother was happy when I asked, said she had been waiting years for me to ask. That gathering dust in a warehouse makes no sense when there's a baby who needs it. But, Marina, he interrupted, touching her arm lightly. Please, it will mean a lot. To me. How could she refuse? Raphael brought in the disassembled crib, piece by piece. Marina tried to help, but he insisted he could manage. While he worked, she made coffee and brought it to him. Theo in his stroller watched everything with fascination, the teddy bear always nearby. It's solid wood, Raphael explained as he fitted the pieces. My grandfather made it. He was a carpenter. Every grandchild had a crib made by him. Laura, me, my cousins. He ran his hand over the polished wood with affection. This one is over 30 years old, but it's still perfect. It's beautiful, Marina said, feeling tears threaten again. This man was breaking down all her defenses, one kind gesture at a time. When the crib was assembled, Raphael stepped back to admire it. It looks good. Marina tested its sturdiness, rocking it gently. It was solid, safe, made with love. Your grandfather was very talented. He was. Raphael smiled, but there was sadness there. He passed away when I was 12, but every time I see one of these cribs, I feel like he's still here, leaving his mark, his love. Now I'll take care of it as if it were a treasure, Marina promised, and when Theo grows up, I'll return it to your family. No, Raphael said softly. You'll pass it on to another family who needs it. That's how it should be, love shared, not kept. Marina couldn't hold back. Tears came and she tried to hide them, but Raphael was too close, too attentive. Hey, he said, touching her face gently. Why are you crying? Because, Marina sobbed, you're too good. And I'm scared to believe this is real. That you are real. I'm afraid to wake up and discover it's just another illusion. Raphael pulled her into a hug. It wasn't romantically charged. It was pure comfort. I am real, he murmured. This is real, and it's not going to disappear. They stayed like that for a long moment. Then Marina pulled away, wiping her tears. Sorry. I've been emotional lately. You have every right, Raphael said. You've moved cities, changed your life, you're starting over alone. It's a lot of weight. Marina took a deep breath, composing herself. You know, I think we need to start over. What do you mean? On the plane, you asked me to pretend, and I ended up really sleeping. It was unplanned, chaotic. Marina smiled. But maybe we need to do things right now, without pretenses or misunderstandings. Raphael considered, then nodded, understanding. Start over, from scratch. Yes. Marina extended her hand formally. Hi, I'm Marina, teacher, 27 years old, Theo's mom, newly arrived in New York City. Raphael took her hand, squeezing it firmly but not letting go immediately. Hi, Marina, I'm Raphael, 35 years old. I work with... He hesitated. Family business, agriculture. I travel too much, and I'm very happy to meet you, officially. They laughed, still holding hands. There was something liberating in that. A new beginning, without the burdens of the past. Theo chose that moment to demand attention. He was standing in his stroller, holding the rail, clearly wanting out. When he saw Raphael, his little arms reached out. The sound he made was unmistakably up. Raphael looked at Marina, asking permission. She nodded, smiling. He picked up the baby carefully, and Theo immediately snuggled against his chest. Raphael closed his eyes for a moment, as if savoring the baby's weight and warmth in his arms. He trusts you, Marina said softly. Theo isn't like this with strangers. I don't feel like a stranger, Raphael admitted, opening his eyes. I feel at home, with both of you. It's strange, but good. Marina approached, touching Theo's hair. You know, when you asked me to pretend to sleep, I thought it was the most bizarre thing. And it was, Raphael agreed, laughing, but it ended up starting this, whatever this is. Raphael looked at her, his eyes serious. And what do you think it is? Marina bit her lip. Honesty, right? I think it's the beginning of something. Important, scary, but real. Real, Raphael repeated, as if the word held special weight. Yes, that's it. Finally, something real. They spent the rest of the morning together. Raphael helped arrange some furniture. Marina prepared lunch. Simple food, rice, beans, a beef stew with potatoes. Nothing fancy. But when Raphael tasted it, he closed his eyes with genuine pleasure. "How long has it been since I've had real homemade food?" he said. "You don't cook?" "I don't have time, and when I eat at home, it's something the company chef prepares. Nutritious, balanced, but without soul." He took another forkful. "This has soul." Marina blushed at the compliment. "It's my grandmother's recipe." "Then I'll need more lessons," Raphael said, winking. "A deal's a deal," Marina responded. "You help me with your education projects. I teach you to cook. It's the best deal I've ever made." They were washing dishes together, shoulder to shoulder, when Raphael's phone rang. He looked at the screen and frowned. "Sorry, I need to take this. It's my assistant. Must be important if she's calling on Saturday." "Of course, go ahead," Raphael answered, moving away a little. Marina tried not to listen, but the kitchen wasn't large. "Yes, Clarice." "No, I haven't forgotten about Monday's meeting. Yes, the documents are ready. How?" He sighed. "Send it to the press office. I won't comment on it. Clarice, I've told you, my personal life is not news." There was a pause. Marina saw Raphael run a hand over his face, tired. "I don't know where they got that information." "No, I'm not dating anyone. Yes, I know the magazines will speculate. Let them. I don't care anymore." He hung up and returned to the kitchen, clearly frustrated. "Everything okay?" Marina asked. "Just work stuff." Raphael hesitated, as if he was going to say more, but then just shook his head. "Nothing important." Marina felt a pang of concern. There was something he wasn't saying, but she wasn't going to push. Not yet. They had agreed to build trust, and trust took time. They spent the afternoon together. Raphael lay on the floor with Theo playing. Marina took photos, laughing at the seriousness with which Raphael built block towers for the baby to knock down. When it started to get dark, Raphael finally prepared to leave. "Thank you," Marina said at the door, "for everything. The crib, the day, for being here." "No need to thank me. I thank you for letting me be a part of this." He gestured vaguely to the apartment, to Theo sleeping in the new crib, to the cozy mess that was Marina's new life. He leaned in and this time kissed her cheek, lingering, soft. "See you next week," he murmured. "Next week?" Marina agreed, her heart racing. She watched him leave, then closed the door. She went to the bedroom and looked at Theo, sleeping in the solid wood crib that had over 30 years of love carved into it. Marina picked up her phone, wanting to send a message. But then she stopped. She opened her browser and for the first time typed, "Raphael Thompson." The results flooded her. Photos, dozens of them. Raphael at events, Raphael with politicians, Raphael on the covers of business magazines, Raphael listed among the wealthiest men in the US. Raphael, heir to the Thompson. Empire, billionaire, one of the most powerful agribusinessmen in Latin America. Marina sat on the bed, shocked. He wasn't just rich, he was impossible. He was in a completely different world from hers, and he had never mentioned it, never boasted. He had just been Raphael. But now Marina understood the interruptions on the plane, the reverence of people, the ease with which he opened doors for her apartment. The daycares on the farms were not a small project. They were newspaper headlines. How had she not realized? How had she been so naive? Her phone rang, a message from Raphael. "Raphael, got home. Thanks for the best day I've had in years. Sleep well. Both of you." Marina looked at the message, then at the magazine photos, then at Theo, sleeping innocently. What had she started? And when he realized she now knew who he really was, would everything change? Marina spent the entire Sunday in internal conflict. Every time she picked up her phone to reply to Raphael, the words caught in her throat. How could she act normally when she knew what she knew? How could she pretend she hadn't researched, that she hadn't seen the dozens of photos of him at Millionaire events, that she hadn't read about the empire he controlled? She tried to convince herself that it didn't matter, that he was just Raphael, the man who had been kind to her son, who had brought his grandfather's crib, who made her smile. But it mattered. It mattered because now she understood the magnitude of the difference between them. It wasn't just money. It was power, influence, an entire world she couldn't even fully comprehend. And he had chosen not to tell her. Why? To test her, to see if she was different from the other women who pursued him, to maintain some kind of control. Marina spent Sunday caring for Theo, organizing the apartment, but her mind was elsewhere. When Raphael sent goodnight messages, she replied briefly, politely, distantly. On Monday morning, as she prepared Theo to take him to the daycare where she would start working the following week, her phone rang. Raphael. She hesitated, then answered. "Hi," she said, trying to sound normal. "Hi, is something wrong?" Raphael asked immediately. "You're different. Since last night." Marina closed her eyes. He knew her too well, even with so little time. "We need to talk." Silence on the other end. Then, "I'm coming over." "Raphael, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. 10 minutes." He hung up before she could protest. Marina sat on the sofa, Theo on her lap, trying to organize her thoughts. How to do this? How to say she felt deceived without sounding ungrateful? How to express the fear that everything was just a game for him? The doorbell rang faster than 10 minutes. Marina opened it and found Raphael, clearly having come directly from the office, full suit, tie. The Raphael from the magazines, not the jeans-clad Raphael, who had assembled the crib. He entered, studying her face. "What happened?" Marina took a deep breath. "I researched you." Raphael stopped, frozen. "Ah. Yes. Ah." Marina crossed her arms. "Raphael Thompson, heir to the Thompson Empire, one of the wealthiest men in the US, billionaire." She let out a humorless laugh. "And here I was, thinking you were just a normal businessman." "Marina, why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me think we were equal in some way?" "We're not equal," Raphael said, his voice firm, "but not in the way you're thinking." "Then explain it to me. Explain why you omitted something so immense." Raphael ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "Because for the first time in 15 years, someone looked at me and saw just a person. Not the surname, not the money. Just Raphael." He took a step towards her. "Do you know how many women have tried to approach me? How many feigned interest, vulnerability, connection, only to later reveal they wanted access to what I have?" "So you were testing me?" Marina accused, hurt. "No!" Raphael practically shouted, then controlled himself. "Sorry, no, I wasn't testing you. I was being myself, for the first time. Without the layers, without the performance, just..." He gestured, helpless. "Raphael, but you lied. I omitted. It's different." "Is it?" Marina challenged. "Because it feels like a lie to me. It feels like you played at being normal while I opened my heart, my life, my son, to you." "Do you think my money changes who I am?" Raphael asked, and there was real pain in his voice. "Do you think it changes the feelings I've developed for you and Theo? That it makes every moment we spent together fake?" "I don't know," Marina exploded. "I don't know because you never gave me the chance to know the complete Raphael. You only gave me a version, and now I discover there's this whole world you live in that you never mentioned. How can I trust that?" Theo started crying, scared by the raised voices. Marina immediately cradled him, whispering soft words. Raphael saw, and something in him seemed to break. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." He sat heavily on the sofa, his head in his hands. You're right, I should have told you, but I... He looked up, his eyes red. I was so scared of losing this, of losing you. When you found out it would change, it always changes. Marina sat beside him, still cradling Theo. Then give me a chance not to change. Tell me. Everything. Who you are. What your life is really like. Let me decide if I can. If we want to be a part of it. Raphael took a deep breath. Then he began. He talked about growing up with the weight of a surname, about taking over the company at 20, giving up his dreams, becoming what everyone expected, about the women who approached him, all wanting something, about the loneliness of always being surrounded but never seen, about endless events, meetings, decisions that affected thousands of lives, about never knowing if someone loved him or loved what he represented. When you slept on my shoulder on that plane, he said, and there were tears in his eyes, you were so exhausted, so genuine. You weren't trying to impress. You didn't know who I was. And for the first time in years, I felt like someone saw me, just Raphael. He wiped his eyes. Sorry, I don't usually cry. Marina felt her heart soften. She reached out, touching his face. Raphael, I understand if you want me to leave, he said quickly. I understand if this is too much. My life is complicated, full of exposure, of pressure. It's not fair to put you in that, to put Theo in that. What if I want to? Marina asked softly. What if I say yes, it's scary. Yes, it's a world I don't know, but what if I say I want to know it? Not the billionaire from the magazines, but the Raphael who assembles cribs, who plays with my son, who brings teddy bears, who eats my simple food as if it were a feast. You want to? Raphael asked, vulnerable in a way the magazines would never show. I want to know the complete man, Marina said. The businessman, the brother, the son, the man who gave up architecture, all parts, but without lies, without omissions, with total honesty. I can do that, Raphael promised. I will do that. He took her hand. But you also need to know. It won't be easy. They'll take pictures. They'll speculate. They'll judge. You and Theo will be on the radar, and I'll do everything to protect you, but we'll deal with it together, Marina interrupted him. As partners, equals, not you protecting the poor, helpless teacher, but both of us, facing it together. Raphael smiled through his tears. Partners. Equals, Marina confirmed. Then she took a deep breath. But I need one thing from you. Anything. Time. Not to decide if I want this, but to process, understand, get to know this side of you. Marina looked at Theo, who had stopped crying and was watching them with curiosity. I have a son to protect. I need to be sure I'm making the right choice for both of us. As much time as you need, Raphael said immediately. I'll be here, waiting, proving I'm trustworthy. You don't need to prove anything, Marina said softly. You just need to be you, the real Raphael. Then let me start by being honest about something, Raphael said. I'm falling in love with you. I know it's early. I know it's intense. But ever since that plane, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you both. And it's not because you need help. It's not out of pity. It's because you make me feel alive. You make me want to be more. You make me believe I can have a life beyond business. Marina felt her eyes sting. Raphael, you don't have to reciprocate now, he hurried. I know you're still healing. But I wanted you to know that... He touched her face gently. This is real for me. You are real for me. Marina leaned in and kissed him, soft, brief, but loaded with promise. It's real for me too, she whispered. Frighteningly real. Theo chose that moment to babble loudly, reaching his arms out to Raphael. Both laughed, the tension dissolving. Raphael picked up the baby, kissing his little head. And you, little one, you're real for me too. Marina watched the two of them, Raphael holding Theo with so much care, so much love, and suddenly she knew. It didn't matter the money, the power, the surname. What mattered was this man, this moment, this genuine connection that defied logic and time. Raphael looked at her over Theo's head. "What is it?" "I was thinking," Marina said, smiling, "about that plane, when you asked me to pretend to sleep." "My weirdest request ever," Raphael admitted, laughing. "But it ended up starting something incredibly real," Marina completed. "Something that—" She paused, searching for words. "Something I think will change our lives." "It already has," Raphael said softly. "At least mine." "Mine too," Marina agreed. Theo yawned, snuggling against Raphael. The baby held the teddy bear with one hand and Raphael's finger with the other, as if uniting two worlds. Two hearts. Marina approached, wrapping her arms around both of them. And there, in the small apartment in Brooklyn, with second-hand furniture and a crib with 30 years of love, 3 people found something that money couldn't buy. They found a home, not a place, but a feeling of belonging, of being seen, of being loved. Raphael stayed for lunch. Marina taught him how to make stroganoff, her first cooking lesson. He burned the rice, but they laughed. They ate together, the 3 of them, like a family. When Raphael finally prepared to leave late that night, he hugged Marina for a long time. "Thank you," he murmured, "for giving me a chance, for seeing beyond, for being you." "Thank you," Marina replied, "for being brave enough to be vulnerable, for trusting me, for loving my son." "Our son," Raphael corrected gently. "If you let me someday." Marina felt her heart quicken. "Someday," she agreed. "When we're ready." "I'm not in a hurry," Raphael said. "I have a lifetime to wait." He kissed her forehead, then left. Marina closed the door and leaned against it, smiling as she hadn't smiled in years. Her phone vibrated. A message from Raphael. "Raphael, got home, but I already miss you, both of you." Marina typed her response, her heart light. "Marina, we miss you too. Tomorrow?" Raphael, "Tomorrow. And every day after, if you let me." Marina, "One day at a time, but—" "Yes, tomorrow." She put her phone aside and went to check on Theo. The baby slept soundly in the solid wood crib, hugging the teddy bear. Marina touched the crib gently, feeling the decades of love carved into it. 3 generations of love. And now, perhaps, a new generation beginning. Marina knew the road ahead would be complicated. There would be challenges, adjustments, difficult moments. But for the first time since she had left Miami, she didn't feel afraid, because she was no longer alone. Because she had found someone who saw her, who saw Theo, who loved them not, despite their imperfections, but because of them. Raphael Thompson, billionaire, heir, businessman. But for her, just Raphael, the man who had asked a strange favor on a plane, the man who held her son as if he were precious, the man who made her believe in new beginnings. And it had all started with genuine sleep on a stranger's shoulder, not a pretense, but a complete surrender, an inexplicable trust, a moment of vulnerability that opened doors to something extraordinary. Marina smiled, kissed Theo's forehead and whispered into the darkness, "Thank you for that flight, for that shoulder, for Raphael, for this new beginning." And somewhere in the city, in a luxurious but empty apartment, Raphael looked out the window and whispered the same words. "Thank you. For Marina. For Theo. For letting me be real. 2 hearts. 1 connection. A future to be written. Together." The end. If Marina and Raphael's journey touched your heart, know that we have more exciting stories waiting for you. Stories of new beginnings, of love that emerges in the most unexpected places, of people who find each other when they need it most. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of these heartwarming journeys. Leave a like if you believe in second chances, and tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced an encounter that completely changed your life? Your story can inspire others. Until the next story, where hearts meet and lives transform.